Hey guy, I'm back. So oddly enough, when I made that video last time, the interview with Memo Bunker, I mentioned that the sim wasn't updated. And then when I finished recording that video, the sim got updated. So here we are. Finally, OP10 is on the sim. So we get to play around with all of the new cars that come from the new sets. I'll be honest, just because it's more supernova focused, at least in terms of like yellow. I will say Robin doesn't get that much support, unfortunately. However, I have been excited for OP10 because it finally enables the funny meme deck. And that, you might see on the screen, is it involves Kylin. I love this card. I think it's super funny. The altar bang right there is super goofy. I love it. That's like one of my favorite cards. It's not a favorite for most, but for me, I just think it's funny. The effect is funny. Whiteboard, gain a life and banish life, and then you still swing for 12. This card is amazing if you can pull it off. I'm going to preface this entire video by saying, in my opinion, this is not like a meta viable deck. Like, it's super inconsistent just because you have no consistent way of searching out the Kylin. The combo actually includes both of these cards and sort of Bon Clay for hyper ramping. Our goal is to basically shred their life as fast as possible to get them to like Kylin percent. That's what I'm calling it. And basically what Kylin percent is the Kylin survives for one turn, you play out one or two Hawkins, it doesn't matter, and then you swing with Kylin. You could probably get away with a leader swing with Olivia's, but it ends with Kylin on attack, minus 10 Dawn. That's why it's super like risky. You KO every other character, you gain a life, and then the opponent trashes a life, and you're still swinging for 12k. So why is the KO important? Because of this Hawkins card. This comes out in OP10. I believe it comes out in March for us in the West. But 1k counter, trash. So on KO, remember, Kylin KOs everything. On KO, trash up to one card from your opponent's life. So literally, when you play two of these guys, and then you swing with Kylin and then use their effect, you're trashing 2 life from the Hawkins, and then you're banishing a life from the Kylin, and then you're still swinging 12k, which is insane. It's so funny. It's so funny when you hit, and like when it happens, you're just like, GG's, bud. It's a funny OTK in One Piece. I love it. I'm definitely gonna be running it. It's not the most optimal, but it is the most fun. It's the funniest. And I'll be honest, like any purple yellow deck can run this. Pudding, Croc, etc. Like those decks could run it. But I think Robin is probably your best bet because she has the on-leader banish. So one of the risks with this, and I actually ran into this with one of my sim games, is if you're swinging with Kylin and then you wipe board, but then if they have the counter to get out of the 12k swing, then you're kind of just smoked. You're minus 10 down. You're basically starting the game from the beginning with less cards in hand, with no board, probably less life. That's the reason why this deck, I wouldn't say is as good. It's still pretty funny. It's pretty funny when you hit it. But that's why I think Robin is the best leader for this, just because the constant banish pressures your opponent's hand constantly. And especially because at the start of the game, they don't know you're running the Kylin. Like, they could see you're running the Bon Clay. The Bon Clay, more often than not, is kind of like a staple purple card in general. So they won't know you're running this. So they'll still be countering. So then by the time they see the Kylin, they're like, oh shit, I gotta deal with this. And there are ways to deal with it. There's your red rocks, there's your just general black, like KO / trash, etc. Like there's the stun, like the Blackbeard stun. Actually, if you're facing against Blackbeard, you get to Kylin before Blackbeard, so you actually have some time to do this funny OTK. Everything aside, I'm going to explain the deck. And I actually have 2 versions of this deck. I'm going to show it to you after this one. I prefer this one because this isn't a safe deck. It's a glass cannon deck, I'll be honest. But I think out of the 2 versions of this deck, I think this one is the safest because of the 9 Luffy. The version 2 I have of this, it's literally the same list except you replace the 9 Luffy with the kid, the 8-drop kid that comes in OP10. I'll explain that a little later. I'm just gonna give you a quick breakdown of this entire list because it looks slightly different. I tried to keep it the same as like Robin's supposed core with obviously the slight changes. So we're running a shit ton of 2K counter. Actually, before recording, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have like 5 2K counters. That's 20 2K counters. You're kind of in defense mode before you drop the Kylin. We're still running the Nami. We're running the Hawkins, of course. I'll explain that with the Kylin and Buckley a little later. And then the Nico Robin, we dropped it to 3. After the Momobuku video, I kind of agree with this. Like, again, I know it's a counter. I know it's a trigger. I know it's like a good card to hit. But like, especially because we're running Clover, I'm kind of comfortable with running just 3 of them just because you're only going to use it once. And there's actually a combo you can do with Kylin that I'm going to explain a little later. We took out the Quasar event that summons an egg just because our core has sort of changed to a more generic core with a different topic. So we actually we added one more Gum Giant because you are going to need that defense. And we have the Darashi. The Darashi helps you search out your Hawkins and just any 2K counter, or honestly anything like your Robin, your Nami. Like, it searches for all the cards you kind of need in this deck. The only cards you want to try and mull for is either a Bon Clay or a Kylin, or like one or the other, and then you just hope you draw the other. That's why I say this deck is kind of inconsistent, just because the sort of crux of your deck being the Kylin and the Bon Clay, you might not hit in your mull, so it is a little risky. That's why we're running sort of like the generic Robin package, just because if you don't hit this and you don't hit the Hyper Ram, like, you're still okay, because you still got your normal gameplay. Your top end is going to be Yamato and Luffy. Kylin, yeah, but you know, just in case you don't get second and just in case you just don't hit these cards, we're still running the Luffy and the Yamato just to be able to play normally. Okay, so I'm going to sort of go into a bit of in-depth of the Kylin like combo. So what you want to do with Kylin is you want to, actually for Robin in general. So let's say you're facing a 5 life leader, right? You want to go second all the time because it lets you hyper ramp with Bon Clay. Our goal is to drop Kylin as soon as possible. So you do your Robin 2 down, you draw 1. You can either play out 2 Clovers or not. If you're looking for Clovers, you're looking for a Robin or a Hawkins. A little on that later, but let's move on. So your 4 Dawn, you're playing Bon Clay, swing 6k. 6k is a weak swing. Banish, it's almost always going to warrant counter. That's okay, that's what we want. Because what's happening here is because we're playing Bon Clay, we get 1 Dawn, and then we're ramping with Leader, we get another Dawn. So we're at 6 Dawn on that second turn. So on the third turn, we get 8. 8, we don't really have much to do on 8. That's why a lot of people run the Kid. But honestly, you could run the Robin and then swing 7. That'll put a lot of pressure on your opponent. You could also do more searches. At that point, I actually don't like searching just because those are potential 2Ks in your hand that you're losing. You could play the Nami to pop their board, you know, play normally. You know, you're sort of just stalling for the next turn, which Kylin comes down. Kylin, you play Kylin, you swing 5 again. That's a weak swing. And then you swing, actually I forgot, you have the Bon Clay swing the previous turn. He probably dies this turn. The next turn you play Kylin. You swing 5, nothing happens. More likely than not, that's okay. The next turn, if you haven't played the Robin, this would be a great time to play the Robin, and then you play a Hawkins. So this is 1 life they're losing. Granted that they're going to have 3 or more, which they will probably have because we haven't been swinging that high. And then you play a Hawkins, which gets rid of another life. And then you play the Kylin. You swing the Kylin. Honestly, you could probably double up your leader because like you're going to trash all 10 Dawns, so you can't attach that Dawn to the Kylin because it's going to get trashed. It's going to get put back anyways. So what you could actually do is you could double boost your Robin leader. So here's what's happening. You're trashing a life with Robin. You're trashing a life with Hawkins. You're trashing a life with Kylin, and you're still swinging. But even before all of that, you could double up Olivia's on Robin to swing 11k Banish, which they can 100% not counter out of. So they're losing 1 life, 2 life, 3 life, 4 life, and then like swinging. They're swinging for the 5th life. Pretty insane. That's all 5 lives gone. That's all 4 to 5 lives gone, which is an insane combo. Again, granted you could hit it, but when you hit it, it's amazing. But in the case we don't hit it, that's why we're running our normal package of Yamato, Luffy. You know, just in case you don't hit it, you still got your normal gameplay, so it's not like you're sort of standing on these two legs. Like, you still have other outs. Granted, your deck is optimized for this, but you know what? In case, this is fine. Okay, so let's move on to the second list I have here. Again, it's pretty much the same list here. So here is the same list. I'll explain these two cards later. But the focus of this is we replace the Luffy with the 8. On play, you may rest this character and trash one of the top lives from your opponent. So, on your 8 dawn turn, so let's say we hit our normal curve, right? So on your 8 dawn turn, you just play Kid, you make them lose a life. Sure, whatever, you swing 5, whatever. And then, again, the same thing happens that next turn. You play 2 Hawkins, you play Robin Hawkins. You could double up, where's Olivia? You could double up Robin with Olivia. So Robin, Hawkins, or Hawkins, Kylin. So you've lost one from Kid. You've lost one from Robin, or Olivia Robin. You've lost one for Hawkins again, and Kylin. That's all 5 lives. And then you're swinging 12k. And honestly, that's not even it. Because you still have your board. You could still swing into their board. Granted, you are going to be giving them cards from their life, which they will most likely take, but that gets you closer to that threshold. You'll be able to tell, like, when you're playing, how many times you can swing before you go for the OTK. But man, this is super spicy. Anyways, so I'm gonna explain these two cards now. Early in the video, I did say that we are running 5 2Ks. That's 22Ks, maybe not the best, and this applies for the previous list as well. There have been favors for Sanji over Usahachi. It makes sense depending on what your local seems to be, whether it is a fast or slower meta. Usahachi and Sanji are interchangeable, and honestly, I wouldn't blame for either because it's a preference at that point. Again, 5 2Ks is kind of overkill, so you might favor the rush over the Usahachi. My only argument against the rush is that you have to minus the dawn, which kind of ruins what you're trying to do, and that you're trying to get to 10 dawn as soon as possible. But obviously you could ramp off later to get that dawn back, but you're losing a card, but you are getting a rush, so it's how you want to balance it. The Salt Blocker, I haven't played this yet, but I'm thinking of running it instead of one of these 2Ks. Probably the Frankie, honestly. The Frankie to me is one of the least used. It's convenient if you hit it on your last life, but that's really it. So I'd say you could probably replace the Frankie with the Sol, or the Usahachi again with the Sol. Either of these two cards are fine. I wouldn't blame you if you added them in. The last card, actually I already explained Darashi, but this would be my entire list, version 1 or version 2. Again, it's a funny list. It's not optimal, I will say that. But if you want to be funny, if you want to be the meme guy, this is such a meme deck. It's super fun. I got a Pleafy match. I've actually been playing this list, not this list, the first list, the one with the Luffy. I've been playing that one on the sim. It's been pretty fun. There have been fun wins, there have been fun losses. But I'm going to show you this match against the Luffy. It's pretty good, but I do know we hit this combo. It's hilarious. Let's check it out. Okay, this guy's name is Wicked Weeder. Let's go. Let's look at our starting hand first. We got the Hawkins, we got the Bon Clay, which is actually probably the best start we could want to get. Like, it's really hard to ask for all 3, but you know what? I'll take 2. We also got a Clover Searcher, which is pretty good. You can search out another Hawkins or another Robin, just in case if we want to ramp or if we're unable to crack that sort of 3rd extra life. Let's see, we got the Olivia. That's also super good. It gives us some late game aggression, or if we want to pressure hand, it also gives us early game aggression. So that's pretty good. That's a good starting turn in my opinion. He's going to swing 8s. Fuck that. I'm not countering out of 8s this early. We're going to ramp with the Bon Clay, and we're actually going to play out the Nico Olivia. I keep looking here because my feed is over there, so sorry if I look this way a lot. So we're going to swing 8k into the Luffy, which again, it's either going to banish his life, which gets us closer to where we want him to go, or it'll get a lot of cards off his set. It'll get 2 2Ks, dropping him to 4, which again is something else we want to do as well. Okay, we're also going to ramp with the other Olivia. She's done her job. I know she's great for late game aggression. but we don't want to let go of the Robin yet or the Hawkins, just in case. We are on 8 Dawn turn, so we are able to trash that life with the Robin and then just do more pressuring. He's just going to set up a blocker. That I don't blame him. He knows that a lot of aggression is going to come his way, so he wants to basically have that defense. He's going to swing 7k. A lot of cards in our hand we want, like even the Uzahachis, because it could potentially, it's a 2k first of all, but it could also rest the Frankie, which could be good if we're in a tough bind. So we take that anyways, and here we're actually in a very like weird position. So it looks like we're going to play the 6 Robin, which again, it's great. It guarantees them losing a life, but that leaves us with 2 Dawn. We could do a full banish swing into lead, and I think that's what we're going to try and do. He either gives out the blocker or he counters out. If he counters out, we swing again with the Bon Clay. Yes, that turns him sideways, but it gives him a target to actually swing at instead of me. So that's why we want to do it like that. So we're going to swing 7k. He either gives us counter or gives us the Frankie. Either way, we're happy. He gives us counter. He loses 2 cards. That's great. We're going to copy the Frankie. We're going to turn our guy sideways. It's the easiest counter. But it does give him a target to actually swing at that isn't me. And because Luffy, I know I said Luffy, Black Purple Luffy or Nico Luffy, he does build board relatively quickly, more quicker than I thought. But yeah, so it does give him an extra target, so that sort of helps me stall out my Kylin turn. Because remember, I have to survive 1 Kylin turn to actually do the thing. Because we're actually perfectly set up, right? Like we have a Kylin and we have 2 Hawkins. Right, technically we only need 1 because Hawkins will trash 1 life, Kylin will trash another life, and then the 12k swings coming at him. So we only need to trash 2 life. So we don't need the second Hawkins, so we could use it for counter. We could use it for counter if anything, so that's pretty good in my opinion. Okay, so let's see what he's gonna do next. I think next he plays down a Zoro. Yep. He's gonna do his ramp. 6 Dawn. That tells me he has a Gum Giants, and he's probably gonna Sanji, maybe. That's what I would be eyeing if I was at this table. Luckily enough, we did let the Bon Clay just die, so the Sanji doesn't really have a good target. Okay, so it's not Gum Giant. He just buffs up his board by 1. I'm unsure why, honestly, because at this point, we're not really at KO. I guess the Frankie get KO'd. I guess that's why that makes sense. So we're going to give him a 5k swing, just a weak swing, because, you know, we're going to be putting down the Kylin anyways. At this point of the game, I'm seeing game next turn. All I need to do is survive a swing here, swing. I don't think he plays Nika in this deck, like the 10-drop Luffy. So I think we're relatively safe there. And even if he does, I think we're still pretty safe, because we have a lot of 2Ks, and if push comes to shove, we could use the Hawkins. Yes, it's unfortunate, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. Or we could just hit a Bajan life, which is pretty funny. But right now, I think I'm sitting pretty well, because he has 2 life. I have ways to get rid of that life with an additional swing. And this is what I mean by once the Kylin hits the floor, like you gotta deal with it, or else it's just game. And because of the way we've been playing, it's really hard to project Kylin just because we've been holding on to our Hawkins. So there's no actual tell. Like from what he knows, we're just playing a regular Robin deck, and then bam, Kylin. He has no cards, he has no removal, so he's just gonna go for board. I think we're more than happy to let him take board. He rests the Robin. That's fine, you can kill it. I don't care at this point. I'm probably not gonna swing with her anyways. Her job was done. You're free to kill her. And then honestly, we're fine. I think we're fine given how these are spread and the counter we have in hand. We could like take our life. We could take all our life and then just counter out the last swing. So I think we're sitting pretty good. Like, let's see, he could 7k, 5k with lead. Sure. We counter out with the Hawkins. That's fine. 7k. We could take that. We can counter out. At this point, it doesn't really matter. He only has 2 cards and 2 lives are going away, and a 12k swing. So it's pretty funny. But we do see the Dawn up, so we want to take care of that Gum Giant, just in case he does. If he doesn't, that's great, but he does have it. He does that counter. That's okay. He has only 2 cards still, so it's pretty good. He does not survive a 12k no matter how you math this. We play out the Hawkins, and honestly, like, there is no other swing to do. I mean, if he had the Sabo, there is a way to counter the Kylin OTK, and that's with the 5-drop Sabo that prevents the KO on board. This is why we play the Usahachi, because it's a cheap card to rest any blocker, or not any blocker, but 5 or less, which the Sabo is. The Sabo prevents KO, that's fine. We don't want to, we kind of want to KO their board, but if we do, if we don't, that's okay, because we're KOing our Hawkins. The Hawkins will lose their life, but we're still swinging in 12k, and that's the game. And you can see in the chat, I'm just like, finally I hit it. I will say, this is hard to hit because you're pretty much relying on luck, but honestly, it's a fun way to play the game in my opinion. But yeah, that's really it. To the outro. Yeah, that's pretty much the list. That's how it plays. That's like the perfect game for the OTK Robin. We were playing with the Luffy. We ended up not using it. But again, I said that the Luffy and the Yamato is just there literally in case we don't hit this, so we could still stick to our normal game. Not this specific list, but these are the cards people usually want to play with this kind of list just because of the Egghead. Again, the Usahachi and the Frankie are both interchangeable with the Sol. You know, on that next Dawn turn, on that 8th Dawn turn, where we sort of had nothing to play, like we did play out the Robin, people would opt for the Kid, just because it's just a guaranteed trash life. And then on the next turn, that's when you play the Robin, and then the Hawkins. That's usually how that would go. Either way is fine by me. And yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about this list. Like, that's really how it plays. You saw all the elements. You saw the Hyper Ramp with Bon Clay. You saw the Banished Life with Robin. You saw the Banished Life with Hawkins. You saw the Banished Life with Kylin. And you also saw how we were able to sort of drain their hand just by the weak Banish swings, because that you 100% counter, which ultimately just shredded their hand for the Kylin swing. Because once we swung with the Kylin, they weren't able to counter. They only had 2 guards. So that's like your perfect scenario. Obviously, you're not going to hit all the time, but when you do, it feels amazing. This is an awesome deck. I'm definitely going to be running this just for the fun of my locals. But yeah, guys, that was a fun Robin video. The next video I'm going to make is probably going to be Smoker, because I really want to try that deck. I tested it a bit. I had a lot of fun with it. And yeah, if you like this, please drop a like and comment if you want to make any changes, because I do agree 22Ks is pretty overkill. So if you have any other better replacements, maybe you can mention them below, whether it be Sol, Sanji, or some other jank card, I don't know. But hey guys, let me know your thoughts, and yeah, stick around for more off-meta content. See you later.